Hello, this is Dr. Eric Bricker, and thank you for watching A Healthcare Z. Today's topic is Pharma loophole to pay doctors. Now, AKS stands for the Anti-Kickback Statute, which is a law that I previously explained in another A Healthcare Z video. I'll leave a link to it in the show notes, that says that doctors can't get paid in exchange for prescribing specific medications. So there can't be this quid pro quo where the doctor prescribes a particular medication and then the pharmaceutical company was like, oh great, thank you for doing that. Here's a set of golf clubs, here's a trip to Hawaii, or like here's just directly cash as a thank you, right? So that's against the law. Like 20, 30 years ago, that totally used to happen, but now it's illegal because of the Anti-Kickback Statute. Now, concept number 2. There are these organizations called group purchasing organizations, GPOs. I also made a previous video about group purchasing organizations. They are exactly what they sound like. They purchase from all sorts of different suppliers for doctors and hospitals. They consolidated them into a group. Okay, so GPOs are unique in that they have a safe harbor from the Anti-Kickback Statute. What's a safe harbor? It's an exemption from the Anti-Kickback Statute. In other words, GPOs can totally pay doctors, bonuses for reaching quotas. Now, how does this then relate to the loophole? So, when it comes to medications that are administered in the doctor's office or in the hospital or in the dialysis center or in the outpatient surgery center, there is the pharmaceutical company that makes the actual injection or infusion or whatever other medication it is. And then there's the distributor. They literally send it to like this warehousing company that has all this logistics, et cetera, et cetera. And then that distributor then sends it out to the different hospitals, et cetera, et cetera. Now those distributors have GPO subsidiaries. So the pharmaceutical company is like, I'll pay a bonus to the GPO if they're able to distribute more of our medications. And then the GPO is like, oh, that's awesome. We'll take some of that bonus and we'll give that to the physician group or the hospital as a bonus for actually using more of that particular injection or infusion. Now, of course, they don't call it a bonus. They have to call it a rebate, right? So just like in the PBM world, right, you've got a rebate going from the pharmaceutical company to the GPO, and then the GPO then pays the rebate to the physician practice, which sometimes the doctors then get to directly see that rebate money in their pocket. All right, again, this is specifically for like in-office treatments, things like injections or infusions. Now, keep in mind, all of this payment and all of this money shows up in the medical claims, not in the pharmacy claims. So if you're an employer-sponsored health plan, you're not seeing any of this in your pharmacy claims. It's all in your medical claims, where the higher cost of your medical claims is incorporating all of these additional payments that are going to the GPOs and to the docs and the physician groups. Okay, now, what do the specific incentives look like for the doctors? What specific incentives are the GPOs giving to the doctors? Sometimes it's direct payments. So literally, I know of a specific example of a physician group where each individual physician got hundreds of thousands of dollars in a bonus payment for switching from one drug over to another drug that they administered in their office. Now, literally, these physicians probably made more from that one-time payment than they did from billing insurance and Medicare and Medicaid for like the entire year. So like hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's a huge amount of money. We're not talking 25 bucks, we're not talking a pen, we're not talking a free lunch, right? Okay, so literal cash money. Okay, next up, also, the practices or the hospitals, they might keep the money for themselves and not give it to the physicians. And then what they'll do is they'll just restrict the choices that the physicians have for administering or for ordering the particular medications. So in other words, like the internal formulary for the physician practice or for the hospital is restricted because the physician group or the hospital is getting payments from the GPO in exchange for that higher volume because of that limited pharmacy. Okay, now, I'm not here to just offer problems without solutions. So what are some potential solutions? Well, at the end of the day, the doctor and the administrators for the hospital or the physician group, they could just refuse the GPO payments. They could refuse to take the money. There's this term called payola, where record companies used to have to pay radio stations to play their music. Pay to play, right? So essentially, the doctor groups in the hospitals could like refuse the payola, okay? And Like there's analogous situations where like there's lots of hospital systems, Kaiser is one of them, where they kicked all the pharmaceutical reps out of the hospital system. Like they can't show up there anymore, right? So like you could, like it's a free country, you could just like refuse to take the money, but everything I've described here, as far as I understand it, is perfectly legal. So it's highly unlikely that these folks are going to refuse the money. I'm not passing judgment, I'm just saying it's unlikely. Okay, then next up, fine, it's America, do whatever you want, but at least disclose it, right? I would argue that the patient should know about this. And I'll just give an example of what that disclosure should look like. The doctor or the prescriber, whoever is literally seeing the patient, needs to say to them, I, or my practice, gets paid to use certain medications over others. And I would argue, because, listen, I've talked about this on previous AHealthKZ videos, it's like, it can't just be like written in the fine print of something that the person just signs when they come into the office, right? This needs to be like verbally said to them, because not everybody can read very well. And I would argue that the patient needs to acknowledge it. Like they need to say, I understand that you're using this particular injection and you get paid for using this particular injection over another. And given natural language processing and generative AI, like that can be captured in the office visit and in the note, and like literally it'd be fairly easy to track, right? Because by definition, if the physician practice was receiving these payments from the GPOs, then the physician practice would have to document in every single one of their situations that that disclosure has been made. So listen, I'm sure there's other lots of, fantastic solutions, out there. This is just a couple of ideas. But, at the end of the day, as is a common theme here on AHealthKZ, sunlight, as Justice Brandeis said, is the best form of disinfectant. So maybe we need to put some sunlight on the pharma loophole to pay doctors. And that's my point for today. Thank you for watching AHealthKZ.